Welcome on in. It's that time. Happy Thursday, Sooner Nation. It's the Sooners on SI podcast dropping on September 19th, which of course means it's Tennessee week. It's finally here. This is a fun week for me, Ryan Chapman, because I love dogs. So shout out to Smokey. I love Knoxville. I love the pride of the Southland. I love Rocky Top. I love the Block T, and all of that goodness is going to be inside Norman, America Saturday night for Oklahoma's first SEC contest. To break it all down, the battle between the number 6 Volunteers and the number 15 Sooners. It's the usual crew. It's our good friend John Hoover, who's currently up in the 918. 918, John, how are we?
1,158 days, guys, is what we've been waiting for. Saturday will be here, and it'll be 1,158 days since July 21st, 2021. Who's ready for some SEC football?
Can't wait. It's been, in many ways, 3 years in the making, right? But this one isn't 3 years in the making because we didn't know at the time that Oklahoma, Tennessee was going to be the first one. We are happy it is, though. We're also joined by our guy, the great Randall Sweet, coming to you live from OKC. Randall, how are we, my friend? You ready for it?
Yeah, I'm excited for some SEC football, first ever SEC action inside of Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. So hard not to be excited about that.
It's a week of firsts on the Sooners on SI podcast, OklahomaSoonersOnSI.com, Inside the Stadium, all that stuff. First time Josh Heupel will have returned since he was unceremoniously axed from Oklahoma staff at the conclusion of the 2014 season. The first SEC conference game, as you know, the first top 10 matchup in Norman since number 8 TCU was around in 2017. That weekend, by the way, Oklahoma State also is hosting a top 10 matchup in state. So it's the first time in state. We've got two big time, massive ranked matchups like that. And this week as well, we record on Wednesdays, as you guys know, is the first SEC availability report for Oklahoma. It is not dropped at this second. Right now, it's about 4:45. If it drops by the end of the podcast, we'll obviously stop everything. I will post the story. We will break it down. If it posts after the podcast, you're going to get some solo Hoove breaking it down, I think, as well, inserting it back in. I don't know if I just volunteered him for that or not. I can hop on with you if you need, but we will have that SEC availability report for you before you're done listening to this in your ear holes. But boys, it's that time. These are the matchups that all of us are in this business for, right? Getting to dig in. The eyes of the nation are going to be on Norman, and the eyes of the nation are going to be on the visiting sideline for many reasons. It's the Josh Heupel Bowl. It's Josh Heupel week, the last Oklahoma quarterback to win a national title. He was on staff forever. He's been asked about it for pretty much 3 straight years that Oklahoma's going to be on his schedule again, all that stuff. We did get a new Josh Heupel story in the press conference on Tuesday for Brent Venables, even though some of the timelines don't exactly mix up. Who I don't mean to buzzkill right off the top, but I'm kind of over it. I get it. Josh Heupel played Oklahoma. He coached Oklahoma. I'm sure that fans will be like, woo, Josh Heupel, yay. The second the ball kicks off, everyone's like, boo, it's 10. I'm kind of over it. I'm ready to just get to the guys that will actually decide this game. Josh will have a big hand in that, but I'm done. I'm past caring. Let it live in the past.
Yeah, I get it. I don't mind it so much. I don't mind exploiting that angle so much. I just wish we could have done it a little deeper. I wish Bob Stoops would have given some interviews this week. That would have been cool. It would have been really cool if he'd have showed up after the Brent Venables press conference and done his own little presser. That would have been chef's kiss. That would have been so sweet. But Josh is the only guy in school history to go 13-0 as the quarterback. He did it in his second year. He did it after the John Blake era. So he'll never get enough love. He'll never get enough respect from this fan base. They put him on a pedestal, and he deserves it. And the fact that he's now coaching, he got fired from Oklahoma a decade ago, and he's now the head coach at the number 6 ranked team in the country, coming back to Oklahoma. It's a perfect circle. Time is a perfect circle, fellas.
It's a perfect circle indeed. Randall, are you expecting big pomp and circumstance? Are you expecting big Josh Heupel emotional videos that's going to totally nuke the atmosphere before the game?
I think that we'd be naive to not expect some sort of tribute, maybe not necessarily in full video format, but I think the way that Oklahoma's creative team operates, how talented those guys are, those people are, I think that it would be safe to assume that there's some sort of photo or video montage in store. But I think that, we talk about what makes college football in general so special, the pageantry, right? The history, the way that people feel connected to and care about their teams. I think that this is kind of, of course, for us who we've been talking about this and looking forward to, this storyline for months, it may be a little tired for us, but I think that, for those people, it does add an extra layer. It does add to that pageantry. Just, of course, another storyline to make this weekend even more exciting than Oklahoma's first SEC matchup, a college game day visit, a top 15 matchup in general between two former five-star quarterbacks could be. So I think that, of course, like you mentioned, when the ball's kicked off, all the love for Josh Heupel, that's out the door. But I think that leading up to the game, it's just a way to make fans even more excited. And I think that, like you mentioned, some sort of photo, video, whatever tribute they give will only add to that.
Here's kind of how I hope it's handled on game day. In the warm-up, this is exactly how the Thunder do it a little bit, although the Thunder usually do it during a timeout. If there's like a former staff member or a former player that's not like the Russell Westbrook level, they show him on the bench. Please welcome back to the Paycom Center, whatever, Serge Ibaka, woo, yay, everybody does that. Flash it up there during like the pregame warm-ups, which is usually reserved for show and OU players. Obviously, it'll be part of the scene setter, which is part of the hype process going in. And Oklahoma's honoring eras this year, right? It's the 100th year at Owen Field. They're honoring eras. Honor the 2000 National Championship team during a timeout. And don't worry about it. Cut to Josh on the sideline as well. He'll be doing his coaching thing, so it may not be. But I don't think Josh seems like a guy that it means something to him, but he's trying to put it all over here on this side of the wall. And on this side of the wall, he's the Tennessee football coach that needs to get a win this week. And then after that, I'm sure that everyone will talk. But like once the ball kicks off, I think that Josh Heupel wants to drop 100 in Oklahoma's head, and he might double bird Joe Stiglione and Bob Stoops on the way out for making him run an offense that wasn't his offense and all that stuff. But I'm kind of to the point where it's awesome that the SEC puts these matchups together and that there's a big tie for Oklahoma. I'm officially, I think, done with Josh Heupel talk. Maybe it's because I spent 10 minutes on an SEC teleconference getting an injury update from 25 years ago that put me over the edge.
Listen, I think you're coming at it from the wrong angle, Ryan. Instead of Holly Rowe doing her little third quarter interview or coming out of halftime interview, whatever it's going to be, what about if they get Chris Plank down there and stand up Josh on the sideline after a big long presentation, right? Stand up Josh and say, Josh, tell us about that 2000 team, how special it was to you. And just go for about 6 minutes and get him talking about Torrance Marshall and Rocky Kalmus and Mac Brown and, just get him going. That's what Oklahoma needs is they need that guy on the other sideline distracted. They need him distracted and sentimental.
I see, Hoover. I thought you were going to go the other direction. I thought you were going to say, can you tell us about the 2014 season and how that ended?
Here's the deal.
Tell us about the Russell Athletic Bowl, please.
Even if they did, I think Josh would give like a 2-word answer and Plank would be stuck there talking and talking and talking. That right before Tennessee takes the field, they should super clip the Trevor Knight Hail Mary in Fort Worth. They should super clip the Russell, and you want an atmosphere. You want the fans rocking and rolling, ready to boo the opponent and be loud, because that's what they're going to need. Oklahoma needs everything to go their way this weekend as a very good Tennessee team rolls in. This group's been an absolute wagon. I'm sure people are tired of hearing about it. It's the largest point differential through 3 weeks in SEC history. Why? Because they curb stomped Chattanooga, Kent State, NC State. Nico has been good enough that he deserves just one name. He's Prince level right now to me, and that has nothing to do with the fact that I cannot pronounce his last name. Same as Tua. When you come in and you drop in and you make that kind of impact on college football, by the end of your career, Tonga Vailoa, we'll all get it. Right now, Nico, he's been excellent. He's got a very experienced offensive line in front of him, protecting him. He's got a ton of great skill position players all across the field, whether it be 12 touchdowns out of his backfield, whether it be Squirrel Williams, everything that he does. Brew McCoy, an old name from college football recruiting pass, is the number 3 option. And then they've got a legit defensive front. I do think, and we'll dive into it, well, there's some questions about the Tennessee secondary. I don't know what the linebacking core, how good they actually are. They've looked great through 3 games. That was a big question mark coming in. But this is a very nervy prospect who for Oklahoma, because I get it. Everyone wants to poke holes in Tennessee's schedule. The fact of the matter is Temple and Houston are no better than Chattanooga and Kent State, because I think Houston's that bad. And Oklahoma had warts that popped up against those 2 teams. Tennessee was in a tight game early against NC State, who they got the pick 6, and then they totally boat raced them from there. That's what elite football teams do. Oklahoma let Tulane back in. They had a strong fourth quarter, but I mean, anyone that's not looking at it and go, through 3 weeks, Tennessee has played better. Does that mean they'll play better on Saturday? Not necessarily, but anyone's kidding themselves if they don't believe that Tennessee's had the best 3 weeks between these 2 teams.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, you can talk about power ratings and FCS and all that stuff if you want, but Tennessee's been pretty close to flawless. I think I mentioned earlier it was the game that they were playing NC State. It was about 6 minutes left in the first half, right before halftime, and it was 7-3, and NC State was driving, and it, had the pick 6. So changed the game, changed the complexion of the game. NC State wilted after that, but it was 7-3. They were in a game. They were in a tussle. So you can't say that was in Charlotte. You can't say they've not been in a tight one before. I think I've seen that claim a couple of times this week that, Nico has never been in a tight game, and Jackson Arnold has been in numerous tight games. Sure, I kind of am in line with that, but Nico's a young quarterback who's riding right now a lot of ability. And what I mean by that is the guys that they've got playing for him, the guys that he's got around him, have a lot more ability, including him, have a lot more ability than their opponent does. But this team right now, they've got Dylan Sampson, the running backs, averaging 120 yards a carry. 120 yards a game, 8 yards a carry, and has scored 3 touchdowns a game. He's got 9 touchdowns on the season. That's what Oklahoma needs to really be concerned with. I know Nico's got the cool name and he's got the hair and he's 6'5" or whatever he is. But if Oklahoma's defense, which I'm kind of confident that they can, but if Oklahoma's defense can kind of slow down that run game, stop Dylan Sampson when it's time, not let him get going, I think Oklahoma's chances of winning this game increase exponentially. If they can't stop the running game, they've got no chance.
We'll dive into the Tennessee offense versus OU's defense here in a minute, because that's going to be the good on good. A lot of Oklahoma cannot lose that battle and win this game. Right. Simply put, Oklahoma's defense can't have a bad day and the Sooners win this game. That's just not going to happen. One thing you can say, though, is that Nico has not played in a competitive second half as a starter. That's just not happened.
That's true.
Iowa had no shot. NC State was done because Grayson McCall stinks. He was good for Coastal Carolina, but that guy, he couldn't hang against Western Carolina. I'm done with the NC State dark horse, whatever. We can just bury that out in the ACC. But another thing that's happened, though, is this Tennessee defense, guys, it has not given up a touchdown in 14 quarters. That goes all the way back into last year. And a lot of that has to do with what they've got rolling up front. James Pierce Jr. is someone that Randall's been talking about since the preseason, looks every bit of a top 10 pick. He's almost kind of been on a pitch count, I think, as they're looking to fully unleash him this Saturday. So it's not just James Pierce, though. Tennessee across the board is one of the teams that can stake the claim for best defensive line in the country. If you think they are the best, if you'd rather have Georgia, whatever, we can argue over that. But unquestionably, this is one of the elite position groups in the country. And Oklahoma's offensive line in its current state is not even a good unit. They can't line up Randall. They have 2 procedural penalties on Michael Tarquin being in the backfield. That's your most experienced guy. They're missing assignments. It's been kind of a rotating door. So I think we should start here because this is probably going to be the big if of this game, Randall. How can Oklahoma either block or nullify or circumvent Tennessee's defensive front?
Well, I think that, traditionally anyone who's, like us, who's watched some amount of football before, when you've got an offensive line that's clearly outmatched by the opposing defensive line, what's the first thing you go to? Get the ball out quick, right? That way the defensive line doesn't have time to get home. They don't have time to get to the quarterback. They don't have time to overtake that offensive line. Well, that hasn't necessarily worked for Oklahoma so far this season. If they can get some of that screen game, some of the quick slants, and some of that going in their offense, Deion Burks has been able to do some of those things. And if maybe you get Nick Anderson back and that's able to open up Deion Burks, some of those other guys a little more, maybe you're able to get the quick game. So that's offensively what OU would probably like to be able to do with an unsure group up front. Going against a Tennessee defensive line that, like you mentioned, is one of the best in the country. I think I've seen some Oklahoma fans on social media looking at stats and saying, well, are these guys really that impactful? Yes, they are. They are that impactful against a team like Oklahoma, where they're not going to put James Pierce on a pitch count. They're not going to put any of these other guys. They're going to say, pin your ears back and go get Jackson Arnold, especially knowing what you go back to Arizona or even last week against Tulane. What happens when you put a little pressure in Jackson Arnold's face? Sometimes he can be erratic. Sometimes he can turn the ball over. So if you're Tennessee, that's obviously what you're hoping for, right? You're going to want to send those guys. You're going to want to get the pressure. Oklahoma, you want to avoid Jackson Arnold being in those situations. If you could get the run game going, maybe hit some outside runs, that would help. But again, that's something that Oklahoma's really struggled with. So I think your best chance is to hope that a guy like Deion Burks and Jackson Arnold, some of those quick screen slants, you can get the ball out quick enough to really hurt Tennessee's defense, make them have to play side to side instead of going so aggressively straight upfield.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and a lot's going to hinge on that availability report. Like we said, that's going to drop. We'll break this down before the pod's over, but just things that we know from talking to guys. Jack Snarl on Monday night joked that Nick Anderson's teased him a little bit, but he'll be suited up and running, so that would be a setback situation. And it sounds like early in this week, Branson Heckman's giving it a go at practice, as are guys like Jake Taylor. This is not the official availability report. When it comes out, like, again, we'll talk about it. It gives designations from available, probable, questionable, doubtful, out, game time decision, and it does not list the injury. But I'm just telling you right now, Branson Hickman, very much a game time decision. Jake Taylor's going to try to give it a go. I would be stunned if we see Jake Taylor on Saturday, less stunned if we see Branson Hickman. But if Oklahoma is entering this game without Branson Hickman and it's Josh Bates at center, they've shown they have the communication issue. We know this. Is Oklahoma even going to be able to get everything sorted to the extent in which they can just rely on that quick passing game, which we only really saw for the first time in the first half against Tulane?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the big question. Can they get that stuff sorted out? And here's the other side of the coin is Branson Hickman comes back. Well, he hasn't played since the second series of the first game. Is he up to speed? Is he 100%? Is he ready to go? Is he SEC ready? Right. Same thing for Jake Taylor. If he comes back this week. Same thing for Nick Anderson. If he comes back this week, he hasn't played since 2 weeks into training camp. How ready is he right now to contribute something against the Tennessee Volunteers, number 6 ranked team in the country, a number 3 or 2 ranked defense overall in the country? They're a really good team. They're not necessarily like a phenomenal team. I think they still have the ability to become a potentially phenomenal team. I think Heupel's got that kind of talent. We may assess this game a little differently a month from now, 2 months from now. But as of right now, man, Tennessee, that defensive front and the athletes that they've got in the back, I'm not sure getting guys back off of IR, so to speak, at this stage of the season and just introducing them into the game plan, I'm not sure that's not necessarily the answer. Oklahoma's got to play better, whoever's on the field.
Yeah, it was really interesting because real quick, Randall, coming into the season, everyone knew about Tennessee's defensive front. The question, as we kind of alluded to earlier, was going to be about those guys on the back end. They brought some guys in the portal, trying to develop some linebackers. If Oklahoma can get the ball out quick to Deion Burks, Nick Anderson, Jake Roberts, Bauer Sharp, I do think Oklahoma has the ability to have success. I don't know whether the offensive line is healthy or not. I don't think it might have been a realistic proposition anyway. Let's say that Brandon Hickman had been healthy for the first 3 weeks of the season and that you had a fully seamless 5. I don't know how many teams in the country are going to have a quarterback that's sitting back, Randall, and waiting 3.5 seconds in the pocket to let some big, intricate, deep route develop. I think it's going to have to be throwing with anticipation like Jackson Arnold did, trying to hit Jaquez Petaway against Tulane. That one missed, but that stuff like that. And I think it's going to be not necessarily everything underneath or at the line of scrimmage, but I think it's going to have to be guys running crosses, running slants that make some of these guys in the secondary and linebackers who have been pretty steady through the first 3 games for Tennessee, but not super stressed. I think that's where Oklahoma's going to have to kind of make their money.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. And you mentioned probably not every single throw will be at or near the line of scrimmage, but a lot of those will be quick passes that are probably not, too long, too far beyond 10, 15 yards past the line of scrimmage. But once you hit a few of those short, maybe a few intermediate routes, that's whenever you loosen Tennessee's defense up a little bit. That's whenever you can take some of those deep shots. But of course, we haven't seen Oklahoma hit those short and intermediate throws with enough consistency to really be able to challenge defenses deep. Now, if you can do that against Tennessee, if you're Jackson Arnold, like you said, if getting Nick Anderson back helps, if you're able to, continue to build that connection with a Bauer Sharp, like we saw some last week with Deion Burks, like we've seen throughout, since the spring, then maybe that is where Oklahoma is able to, find their advantage on offense. Obviously, we've kind of talked about the running game throughout the season, and that's not so far. We haven't really learned any answers to that yet. Will they be able to run the ball against Tennessee? This defensive front, probably not. So you're going to have to. I think one of you guys mentioned last week, like I think there's maybe a Mike Leachism. When you're not running the ball well, you throw some of those easy completions that are pseudo runs, right? That are almost like run plays because it's a gimme completion that's going for 3, 4, 5 yards. If you can't run the ball for Oklahoma, you're able to get some of those completions. Maybe you build Jackson Arnold's confidence. Maybe you loosen Tennessee's defense up, get some of those guys on their heels. That's when you can take that deep shot to a Nick Anderson, or Brendan Thompson can stretch the field vertically. But I think that like you mentioned, Ryan, you've got to hit those gimme throws around the line of scrimmage and in those short areas of the field. And if you're Seth Luttrell, draw up some plays that'll confuse linebackers, confuse defensive backs, that just makes it a lot easier on Jackson Arnold.
You mean noted Mike Leach disciple Seth Luttrell, right? I mean, he played for him, he coached under him. He was exposed to Mike's line of thinking, and that's exactly right. What Seth needs to do, and here I am, Coach Hoover. I'm going to give you your $1 million offensive coordinator. I'm going to give you your advice for the game. What Randall said earlier is 100% right. They've not used the inside screen game. They've not used the running back screen game. You're going to have to use some deception, some misdirection. And the other thing they've not used is the counter game and the run on the ground with the running backs. They've not really utilized a lot of those counter plays. Counter plays, you influence the defense to step one way, to look one way, to get their eyes going one way, to get their momentum going one way, and you counter and go back the other way, or you go against their grain. Oklahoma's not done that. They're going to need to do stuff like that. And I'm not talking about reverses, and I'm not talking about flea flickers and all that crap. I'm talking about simple power counter plays or simple screen plays, inside screen, tunnel screen to the wide receiver coming across the formation, or flare screen to the running back. Oh no, here comes the James Pearson, his mighty band of volunteer warriors. Well, you float a little pass out there. There's your screen. You've got some 3 offensive linemen out there blocking for him. First down, Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I mean, we missed this in the open, but the actual ode to Josh Heupel is to run a reverse on the first play of the game, because that was all he knew how to do when he was Oklahoma's offensive coordinator. That would be the real hand over your heart. This is how you honor a past legend. But here's the thing, too. I think you finally saw Oklahoma. I don't think that the struggles against Houston were because Oklahoma was vanilla, per se. I think that was very real offensive line issues. But you finally saw a game plan where against Tulane, Oklahoma knew they weren't concerned with hiding stuff, as more of what does Jackson want to run, what fits our personnel, how do we get this group in a rhythm early. And I think of no shock, it came out and it looked a lot better. The only hiccup they kind of have was Howland got absolutely bullied on a bull rush. He couldn't anchor it. They made the quick change. Things were moving along a lot better. And as Brent Venables talked about, a lot of the drives that stalled ended up not being Jackson Arnold issues, whether it be a misprotection or a drop or things like that. And so as good as this Tennessee defensive line is, I do think that first off, Seth Luttrell is a very experienced offensive coordinator. I know when everyone was panicked and mad, I saw a lot of like, what has he ever done to be qualified? He ran a lot of really high-powered offenses, a lot of different spots. I'm sorry that you didn't watch the Larry Fedora North Carolina offenses. They were awesome. But he's going to have a bunch of stuff for this group. And this is where Brent Venables talks about this a lot in the lead up to big games, guys, that the emotion is not something that can carry you through 4 quarters. At a certain extent, you got to have execution, you got to have good fundamentals. But on the first drive, as you're alluding to, Hoove, if you roll a counter look out there and the emotion in drive 1 is everybody get upfield, we're going to have this big explosive play. And then suddenly Gavin Sawchuk, who's really patient, is running 25 yards down the field. It's not something we've seen this year, but that is where that is an emotional mistake that I think both these teams are going to be susceptible to making. Yep. That then plays on later on in the brains of the defense of like, oh gosh, in the third quarter, like, yeah, but remember the first drive when we absolutely got popped for this, that like, that's the kind of stuff that makes linebackers play half a step slower, which then leads the lanes to either seal off gaps when you're trying to rush or for Jackson to step back and pass. I do think that there's going to be a lot that Seth Luttrell is going to do, Randall, to try and make this thing as easy as possible early on. Because again, I do think Oklahoma can make some money if they can get to the second level. It's just about getting to the second level past one of the best fronts that you're going to face all year long.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. We mentioned it. OU's got the athletes at some of those skill positions to be able to beat Tennessee's defensive backs, linebackers. Taylor Tatum, Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk out of the backfield. Obviously, if you've got Nick Anderson healthy, Deion Burks at the receivers, those guys are all talented enough to beat some of the Tennessee defensive backs and linebackers. But as we mentioned, you've got to scheme around some of the deficiencies. I think you mentioned it, kind of with Oklahoma State before. If you've got one offensive lineman that is going to get target, you can scheme around that. And with this, it's a little bit of a different situation because even if your offensive line was where you want it to be, you might not want to try some of those plays against that Tennessee defensive front. So regardless, you're going to have to scheme around where their strengths are if you're Oklahoma. And that's, I think, really it's going to show a lot of how skilled is Seth Luttrell at calling that offense against, like you mentioned, an elite position group. Maybe not an elite unit, maybe not Tennessee's defense as a unit being elite, but an elite position group in that defensive front. Can you take advantage of the deficiencies elsewhere and overcome your deficiencies up front? Jackson Arnold, we think has the talent to do that. He's shown so far that he can hit those guys when they're there, but you've got to, if you're Seth Luttrell in Oklahoma, you've got to put those guys in the right spot. And of course, obviously, Deion Burks has to catch the ball. I can't drop a throw coming across the middle of the field on 3rd and 15. The running backs have to be able to make a guy or two miss in the open field, which is something we haven't seen a ton of yet this year. Nick Anderson, as Hoover mentioned, has to come back in and be able to get the hang of things really quickly. So if all those things come true for Oklahoma, then you've got a shot. But it's going to take kind of a marriage of not only the scheme, but all those skill position players playing to the best of their abilities, and Jackson Arnold, making the right decisions.
Yeah, something Hoover alluded to earlier is that, we're going to be laser focused in on a guy that one was a sophomore, one was a redshirt freshman. They basically both have 4 starts to their name. Nico V. Jackson, all that stuff. Nico's got a lot more around him on the offensive side of the ball, which is why I think a lot of people are honed in on Jackson Arnold and what can he deliver in this game. I think the tangible is we saw the quarterback run game and how much that helped Oklahoma against Tulane a week ago, how much that helped, whether it be a fantastic play fake that led to a 47-yard run, whether that be a really gritty scramble on a 3rd and 11 or a really kind of elusive 24-yard run that ended up in a touchdown. That was all huge for Jackson Arnold. The stuff we don't know, the X factor stuff, is kind of what I asked Brent Venables about on Tuesday, because Tennessee's been excellent. And that's what you want to do, right? You want to beat the doors off of people. And so Tennessee's going to have no worries, qualms, concerns about the fact that they have just dominated teams for 3 straight weeks. But because Oklahoma's been in these tight games, now let's look at Jackson Arnold, his body of work. In the Alamo Bowl, that was a game in doubt in the fourth quarter, big momentum swings. You look at Houston, that game was in doubt in the fourth quarter. Tulane, that game was in doubt in the fourth quarter. Let's not talk starts, but let's talk Jackson Arnold, a true road atmosphere at BYU. not what Neyland would be if they were playing this game. They're not what Norman's going to be. It wasn't totally full, but it was a second half crowd that had come away because they believed that they could win. It was a 1-score game, all that stuff. Jackson Arnold, that's what he was inserted into. And so he has played in moments where if he makes a mistake, the game might be done. It might be over. He's made those mistakes against Arizona, right? He made a catastrophic mistake against Tulane and then responded with 2 drives when they needed it. That's going to be really valuable. Nico might be perfect in that situation. That's on the table, right? But we just haven't seen him do it, and we haven't seen him do it on the road, which is going to be something that it may not decide the game. Nico still may be great, Hoove, but at least Oklahoma knows what they've got in their quarterback, which is a guy that's been pretty resilient in these tight games that he's faced through a very, very small sample size.
Right. No, I agree. And I think Brent talked about it this week a couple of times. I think once on his coach's show, maybe, and then once in the press conference yesterday about Jackson's poise, not being flustered, making a big mistake, being able to be resilient and come back from it. The mistake was his. It goes on him. It's a pick 6 for the quarterback. It was an interception. It was a pass thrown by him that was brought back for a defensive touchdown, right? But we all know by now that it was the blocking up front, not necessarily up front, but a blocking mistake by the running back, freshman running back Taylor Tatum's in the game in that situation down on the 10-yard line, or what is it, the 20-yard line? I can't remember. But, if what Jackson has to do now as the quarterback, as the leader of the team, as the Jeff Lebby said, face of the program, right? He's got to go directly to Taylor Tatum and say, okay, not a problem. We overcame it. I saw what you saw. I know why you did what you did, but I want you to be aware. Here's where we're going in the future. Here's how to get better at that. Here's what I want you to do. He's the leader of the team. So that's a big moment for him. Not just, Jackson Arnold, resilient, come back and lead a touchdown drive in the fourth quarter, but Jackson Arnold, the leader of this team, go up, put your arm around Taylor Tatum and say, listen, Coach Murray's probably going to yell at you really bad. And there might be some nasty words in there. Don't get your dauber down. Don't lose, your spirit. Keep playing, keep grinding. This is Jackson Arnold's teaching opportunity to be a leader on this team. So you're right. And he's been in some close games, and you like what he's done in some of those moments, for sure. I like a lot of what I've seen from Jackson Arnold. Just need to see a little more consistency.
A lot of that'll probably come with consistency in front of him, Randall. But it's got to be good news for Oklahoma. I know a lot of the framing of this game is going to annoy Oklahoma fans, but the way that this offensive line is rolled, it needs to be it's not the full Kansas State game plan, because I don't think Oklahoma can go out there and run the ball like Kansas State, but you just have to have sustained drives. You don't have to have sustained drives of 10 of the 12 plays or runs, but if this could just get to a 1-score game situation late, that means Oklahoma's defense is having success. And in that moment, with the home crowd, with a different kind of edge that this Tennessee team hasn't had to feel yet, that's where I think it kind of flips. And Oklahoma, who is not a program that fancies themselves as underdogs, I think they're happy to just take the underdog mentality and try and be like, oh yeah, if they're in the fourth quarter, people are going to be stunned, because that's something that I think is going to play into a game plan, a game model that Oklahoma would really feel comfortable in.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, where Oklahoma's at right now with the group that they have in the backfield and up front, that you're probably not going to be able to rely on the run to win you the game, right? But you have to be able to run the ball when you need to, right? Whether it's a 3rd and 1 short yardage situation, you need to pick up the first down, or whether it's just, like you mentioned, to keep the drive going and keep the Tennessee defenders on their heels, right? If you're dropping back to pass every time, it's going to be a lot harder for you to complete those passes. So you're going to need to run the ball, keep Tennessee's defense honest, keep the game plan mixed. I think I was talking to can't remember. I was talking to someone else on the OU beat last week, and they put it a great way. They said, through the first few weeks, it seems like OU just runs the ball just to say they ran it, just to put that check mark on the play sheet, say, all right, we gave the ball to the running back. This week, Oklahoma needs to run the ball with some intent. They need to say, okay, this is, we want to, establish the run. We want to pound Tennessee on the ground. Of course, like you mentioned, you're not going to be able to go K-State and just dominate the ground game. You're not going to be able to, take some of those elite defensive linemen out of the game. But if you can, like I mentioned, run the ball when you need to, whether it's picking up short yardage or just, on 1st and 10 to stay ahead of the sticks, because we've seen that that's been very important with this team through the first 3 weeks of the season. You've got to be able to do consistently, whether it's Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk, or Taylor Tatum, put it back in there who you can trust to make the right plays, make the right assignments, and also get you those few yards when you need it. And again, as I mentioned, it'd be nice if you could also get it back in there who would break a few tackles, take a 10-yard run into a 20, 30-yard run or longer. But I think at this point, OU will take what they can get out of that group.
And what they're going to need is everybody pour out your shot, take the drink to play complementary football. Because if Oklahoma's offense is sputtering and looks like the Jeff Levy show of Gone in 60 Seconds, and that's what you're leaning Luke Elzinga, then it doesn't matter how good I think we all think Oklahoma's defense actually is. They're not going to hold up against this Tennessee team just having to go 3 and out, boom, 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 be on the field the whole time against this Tennessee offense. You look at what they've done so far, guys. Nico through 3 games, completing 71% of his passes, 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, 698 through the air. He's added 102 in a score on the ground, 17 carries. Dylan Sampson, the running back, like you mentioned earlier, who 357 on the ground on 45 touches, 9 touchdowns. To Sean Bishop's kind of been a little bit of a home run hitter as well. 22 carries, 222 yards, 3 scores. The big difference in what Oklahoma's offense has been able to do or not been able to do so far to what Tennessee's has is Tennessee's got a veteran offensive line. They hit on their portal prospects, and Tennessee's been able to keep Nico clean, which has made him look like the $7 million man or whatever it was rumored that Tennessee was going to ink up and pay him for his career in NIL money.
Yeah, I guess I lost track of your question there to what Nico is he the $7 million man? Is he worth? Is he a football god?
Yeah. What Nico? He's just not been touched. It's easy to look great when you've not been touched. Is that going to be the reality for him? Like, are we going to finally get to see him display some of this stuff under duress? Because he's made some incredible throws so far.
He has. And here's the deal:
there's been no sustained pressure on him at all.
Right. He's made it look very easy, and his offensive line made it look very easy. I was watching the NC State game back last week, and there was a play where he, darted up the middle and made 13 yards or something like that. And he just kind of got up, and he looked like, he looked like Joe Cool, just getting up off the ground, and his, offensive line were trying to help him up, and he just bounced up like, it's cool, I got it. But as he was walking back, he's kind of a thin guy, kind of a svelte guy, I guess. He was walking back through his offensive line to go back behind the line to get the play in, which doesn't take long because they run the fastest tempo in the country, among the other many things that they do well. But guys, I think he walked between the center and guard as they were getting ready to get over the ball. Those guys look like 300-gallon barrels standing next to him. They're huge. They're enormous. I know Oklahoma's got some 300-pounders up front. Boy, Tennessee looks like an old-school SEC offensive line. So all the things they do well, Nico, all those wide receivers you mentioned, the running game is obviously a huge spark for them. Their offensive line is just massive, and they play with bad intent. So that's something that Oklahoma – that's been a strength for OU's defense, has been their run defense, their defensive line, their interior play right in the middle. Those guys are going to have to play their absolute best game up front to handle those offensive linemen from Tennessee.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of real quick, right now, Texas' offensive line last year.
Yeah,
because they're massive, and I guess the group this year too, because they brought them all back. They're massive, but the tackles can pull, the guards can pull, the center is pulled a couple of times, which leads you into. We saw a year ago this Oklahoma defensive line played their most physical game against Texas and was very disruptive. Now you look, DeJoun Terry's playing the best ball of his career. Jaden Jackson is built to get knocked back. You add Dominic Williams. It looks like they've really found something in Ethan Downs, and whether you want to call upon the absolute fourth quarter takeover of Armason Thomas or Trace Ford, what he can do in the run game. This is a group that it feels like they can be violent and get some knockback because they're going to have to shut down the run if they really want to get after Nico.
I think you to your original question to who will Nico do all this under duress again. I think that this week is going to be very different because I think that whenever Nico drops back to pass this week, obviously those guys up front for Tennessee are very good. Brent Venables mentioned that. He mentioned Cade Mays specifically as a guy who is very good, and that whole group up front. I think he mentioned that Oklahoma even went after Tennessee's left tackle whenever he was in the transfer portal. So they've got a good group of guys up front. I still think that with as talented as OU is up front, the guys you named, Grayson Halton, and the scheme that Todd Bates, that Zach Guy, that Brent Venables will run, some of those stunts, some of those twists, those will all be exotic enough with guys who are talented enough to get into the backfield to wreck some shop on Tennessee's offensive line. Now, will they be able to do that enough to slow down Tennessee? To slow down Tennessee's offense? How does Tennessee and Josh Heupel counter? We talked about Tennessee having a good defensive front, Oklahoma needing to get the ball out quickly. Tennessee's probably going to be thinking the same thing. And so those guys on the back end, how will they respond? They've been good so far this year, but again, just like we talked about with Oklahoma, this is a different test for them. And so obviously, you mentioned the stopping the run, Oklahoma's defensive front. They've been good at that so far. 2.2 yards per carry, haven't allowed a touchdown on the ground yet this year. Again, this is a different test for them. Dylan Sampson's a lot tougher. Those guys up front are a lot tougher. I would imagine that the run defense looks not quite as good as they have so far this season for OU, but I think that those guys will still be good enough to cause some traction for Tennessee, a lot more resistance than they've seen so far this year. And I think in the end, it's just a question of will it be enough resistance for Oklahoma's offense to come in and give them a chance.
Real quick, guys. This is what I was talking about. Their left tackle's 340. Or is listed as or on the starting two deep. The second guy is 6'7", 350. So 6'6", 340, 6'7", 350. Left guard is 314. Second guy is 325. Cooper Mays, the center, is 6'4", 310. The starting right guard is 330, 6'3", 330. And their starting right tackle, John Campbell, 6'6", 330. Or Dane Davis, 6'7", 333. They're abnormally big, and that can absolutely wear down a defense. Even a defense as good as Oklahoma's, as experienced as Oklahoma's, and as well as they've played so far, this is a defense that needs to get off the field, make plays when they're there to make, because you don't need to be on the field for 10, 12 play drives.
Yeah, feels like they've got the depth Oklahoma does, especially at defensive end. When you talk about PJ getting back up to speed, Brent Venables kind of told the weird story on the Monday Coaches Show about how when they went through their mock game day, they were just warming up, and PJ basically strained some of the tendons in his ankle, so it's taken him a couple of weeks to get back up to speed. That's something we've talked about, that he just didn't quite look as explosive. Yep. That's certainly good news. And also DJ Terry, a guy that Brent Venables said missed 10 days of fall camp with a hamstring injury. I think it is no coincidence that as he's gotten better or healthier throughout the year, he was an absolute monster. There was a couple of those 2-lane drives deep in the south end zone. Randall, I know you got great look at him, where we're looking at it from behind, Randall, because of where we were sitting kind of near the 50 in the press box, and Tulane's trying to double team him, and Terry's like, nope, I'm squatting and I'm pushing both of you guys back. I know you saw that, and that's one of those things where I think that he can bring that, a former Tennessee player, but it's just a matter of not if Oklahoma's on the field for 20 of the 30 minutes in the first two quarters.
Yeah, you mentioned Dejon Terry. I wrote about him today. Go to oklahomastudentsonsi.com to check that out. He talked to us on Monday and said some great things. He said that he thought it was his best game of the season, that he's trying to build on that. You mentioned he looked from the perspective that he looked like a dominant force along the defensive line. You mentioned there's times where, as big as he is, he's bursting through those guys, throwing offensive linemen out of the way and just swallowing up ball carriers in the backfield. And I mean, when you watch him wrap his arms around a guy, just completely engulf one of those running backs, you truly get a sense of just how big of a human being he is. I mean, he's huge. And that's the type of guy that OU needs in a game like this, who just went over how big those offensive linemen are. And really throughout the SEC, I think that was a big intention in Brent Venables and company bringing Dejon Terry into Norman last summer. was knowing, okay, when we get to the SEC, this is what our players need to look like. And so far this season, at least whenever, as you've seen him get healthy in this Tulane game specifically, DeJoun Terry looked like that type of guy who can be a difference maker, not necessarily on the stat sheet, but when you watch the film, when you're, watching the way that he's eating up gaps, that he's, taking on double teams, he's pushing guys back into the pocket, he can really affect the game that way. And obviously, he's going to be very motivated this week playing against Tennessee. He said that he was excited to see Josh Heupel, some of his former teammates on the defensive line again. Of course, this is his second reunion. He played in Kansas, another one of his former schools last year. But I think that he's going to be a big time important player for Oklahoma this week against his former team. And as a whole, that defensive front, they need to, like who mentioned, make the plays that are there to make. Those first and 10 runs, you can't let Tennessee get ahead of the sticks. You've got to stop those in their tracks, try to get off the field earlier, get into obvious passing situations. That way you can send guys like PJ, guys like Trace Ford, guys like R. Mason Thomas. You can tell those guys to pin their ears back, go get the quarterback. When you're in a bunch of third and short, third and medium, it's a lot harder for those guys to tee off and go put pressure on Nico. But when it's, third and 9, third and 10, third and 11, it's a lot easier for those guys to get some pressure and really impact the game the way that Oklahoma wants and needs them to.
Yeah, that'll be a big key. The other piece of that's going to be Oklahoma's got to be what they've been pretty much all year, which is pretty steady on the back end of that defense. There was the one coverage bust against Houston, which was kind of put down to communication. That'll be strained and tested this week, although I think that communication was more because the coaching staff was arguing, trying to be like, that was not a pass interference of Woody Washington. We should actually have the football. I think that was more down to that than any trouble with the operation. But we saw a week ago, we said it, Mario Williams, he's not Dante Thornton. He's not Squirrel White, some of the weapons that Tennessee's bringing in this week. But when was the last time Oklahoma was able to go into a football game and say, this guy's your number one wide receiver, and we're just going to go, you've been erased, you are not a factor, everybody else got to beat him. That doesn't happen a whole lot. And when you look at the fact that for Oklahoma's defensive front, they can't be on the field for a lot of that game, Oklahoma will have a ton of options, Hoove, that they can rotate through at corner, regardless if Gentry Williams is able to give it a go or not, to make sure that they're able to kind of platoon on those guys, because it's going to be tough running up and down the field with the pace that Tennessee wants to go. But they've got the depth there on the back end at corner especially, and then I don't think you're going to want Billy Bowman to come off the field the way that he helped stop the run and his playmaking ability through the air. But that'll be the other big key, is if the front does their job, then it's pin your ears back and the ball's going to be in the air, which gives you a little bit more variance of forcing turnovers, all that stuff.
Yeah, and the X factor is always, I know we do our deals on Saturday, the X factor that we predict, and we always kind of come up with a name that might come out of the smoke or the radar or whatever. The X factor for Oklahoma's defense is almost always going to be that cheetah position, especially if Kendall Dolby is manning that spot. If Kendall Dolby's in the cheetah, then all of a sudden you don't have nearly as many communication breakdowns as you did last week a couple of times, especially with Woody Washington jumping in there. Trained cornerback, and now he's having to play a different part of the field, a different look at everything, a different vantage point for him. So an experienced guy and a good football player, but playing a new position. That's Woody playing cheetah. So if you can get Kendall Dolby back, you said you thought it might be a concussion. I kind of concur with that diagnosis just based on watching him and looking at his, interactions with his teammates and stuff like that on what was a sunny day. So Kendall Dolby's health, huge for the defense, because he's going to see things that other guys don't see, that might not be trained to see. That frees up a lot of, like you said, Billy Bowman doing a lot of yeoman's work in the run game and in the pass. That frees up a lot of trust on the part of guys like Danny Stutzman, who knows he sees Kendall Dolby out there in the nickel. He's gonna be fine. He doesn't have to worry about who's out there or getting the call into that guy. So everybody plays better when your starters are on the field, because your starters know what they're doing. They take care of their business. They know what they're doing. Like Brent Venables said, the ones are ones for a reason. The twos are twos for a reason. When you got twos at an important position like the cheetah, it's going to leave you open to susceptible to problems. So if Kendall Dolby's healthy, that helps a lot.
And aside from Kendall Dolby being really good at the cheetah position himself, of course, a guy who can defend the pass and step up, rush the passer even, and is really good in run defense, it also frees Woody Washington to go back to corner. It gives you just more depth at cornerback. Kenai Walker's a guy who's been playing really, really well this year. We talked about it in the post game for the Tulane game. We thought that Des Malone's had a really strong year so far, especially in that game against Tulane. If you get Gentry Williams back, then, in addition to Woody Washington, Jacoby Johnson's been playing a lot of football for OU. That's a pretty deep cornerback rotation, like Ryan mentioned. And, a lot of those guys, Kenai Walker, Des Malone, Woody Washington, they've played, and Gentry Williams, if you're able to get him back, they've played a considerable amount of football, enough that you would trust them to go out and take on these Tennessee wide receivers, take on a young quarterback in Nico, and do what they need to do to get the job done. Even a guy like Jacoby Johnson, even though he's younger, he is extremely athletic. He's got the size to hold up against these guys. He can play in some of those situations that maybe aren't as, not the crucial game clinching situations for you. To eat up some of those snaps. And then on the back end, Robert Spears-Jennings has had one of the best seasons of anyone on Oklahoma's defense. And Ryan mentioned Billy Bowman. Obviously, you know what he's going to give you. Those guys, Peyton Bowen's able to step in and make a few nice plays. Kendall Dolby's healthy. You've got a lot of depth, a lot of really, really talented players who can match up well against these Tennessee receivers who are good, but who will have a much tougher test this week than they faced, in the previous 3 weeks. Not only talent-wise, but schematically in the back end as well. But again, you've got to be healthy. You've got to have Kendall Dolby. Gentry Williams would help as well. But I think Kendall Dolby's where that really starts, like you mentioned, too, because he opens up that not only his ability, but also opens up those guys to play, the other guys on the defense to play where they're supposed to play.
Coming into this thing, Tennessee's averaging 336 yards per game on the ground. They're giving up 1 sack per game. What's more important for you for this OU defense? If Oklahoma wins this game, holding Tennessee under $150 or getting 3 or more sacks on Nico, what's the more important thing? What gets you to a pathway where you're feeling more and more comfortable that Oklahoma's defense has done what they need to do to win?
I was going to say 170 on the rushing. If they can hold Tennessee to 170 or less on rushing, I think that's a big step in the right direction. 150 might be a little, I don't know, ambitious, especially if Nico contributes some of his sneaky read option type stuff, because once he gets going, he gets in a north-south direction. He gets going really fast. He can, as Venable says, chew up the grass really quick. So I would say the rushing number. Yeah, you could get through, and you could have an R. Mason Thomas type of night where he busts through a couple of times and knocks him down, and the next drive they're going to come out and they're going to try to run it down your throat again. So if you can hold them to certainly below 200 yards, but I think if they get over 170, their chances of winning the football game increases.
Yeah, I would go with who. I think that the rushing numbers are really important because of how effective Tennessee has been running the ball. Also, if Tennessee's running the ball down your throat, those 3 sacks might not matter very much. Like Hoover mentioned, if you're getting those sacks with the next drive, Tennessee's going 12 plays down the field with a bunch of chunk runs. That sack on the last drive might not matter as much. And like you mentioned, that can be a little fluky as well. So I think that if the thing that's going to be more consistent throughout the game is OU stopping the run rather than a few sacks here or there. I think that would be more helpful for OU's defense. But I think that they definitely take both if they could get it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit team havoc because I think that the big thing for me, I think Oklahoma's going to have to win the turnover battle, and I think they're going to have to win it heavily, like a +2, +3 situation, which is probably why I lean toward if you're hitting Nico consistently, if you can get into that, it is a big ask against a good offensive line, but that 5-6 quarterback hurry, sack, like all combined type situation, then I think that Nico's probably going to make some bad decisions because as good as he's been completing the ball, all that stuff, he's been under no pressure. He's still thrown 2 picks through the first 3 games. So I'm interested to see what that looks like because we know what Oklahoma is as far as ball hawking in that secondary. And part of the thing that plays into all of that is, it's a big game if we're giving special teams its own breakout on a big preview here. Luke Elzinga has been excellent this year, guys. Oklahoma is not as good in the field position battle if Elzinga has not been able to not just boom bigger kicks when they needed it. They haven't needed that as much as the precision. We saw Michael Turk had an incredible leg, but that group really struggled to down teams inside the 20 if he was near midfield. That was just something that I don't know if Elzinga is exceptional strike it with the backspin or what that is, if they're just better coached on how to get down there and cover it. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of that. Maybe Pat McAfee will drop by this weekend and help us out and let us know everything there. But Luke Elzinga has got to be really good. But the flip side of that is Squirrel White. Britt Venables went out of his way to talk about it. One of the top punt returners in the country so far. A big reason why Tennessee was just set up with prime field position the entire second half against NC State. The punt game both ways, Oklahoma's going to just have to straight up win that battle if they're going to win this game.
That's a big battle to win this week for sure, and there's a couple reasons why. First of all, that punt by Elzinga that like grazed the goal line. They were on the broadcast. They stopped they were like doing replays on down the goal line, down the pylon, and they were saying, did that go in the end zone or did it touch the line? And they showed a close up, and it was like an inch away from the line, and then it hit and then went backwards, checked up. Unbelievable talent to be able to do something like that. And he's done it before. He's done it 2 or 3 times before. I want to say this year he's checked up a couple times. Last year he made an art out of it. So that's a big you can't count on stuff like that. But if you get 1 or 2 of those a game, that can be a big momentum changer, obviously, especially if you get him pinned down on the goal line. All of a sudden you're maybe tackling a guy in the end zone for a safety, Grayson Halton, against Houston. But here's an indicator. Just from being an old guy and watching a lot of football and studying a lot of stats, here's one of my indicators that either Tennessee has a bunch of guys who just got back from the Paris Olympics and ran on the 4x100 team, or they have played nobody yet. Look at their special teams return numbers. Look at their return numbers, and that gives you a kind of like a scale, like a balance between what one team has athletically running down the field and covering kicks and what the other team has athletically returning those kicks. Squirrel White, 20 yards per punt return. That's third best on the team. They got another guy that's averaging 27.5. They've got another guy that's averaging 49. He brought one back for 49 yards. And they got another guy that's averaging 11.5 yards. That's punt returns. Kickoff returns, they've returned 2 kickoffs this year, 34 yards per kickoff return. So they are, athletically speaking, they're dynamic, they're explosive, they're talented, they're elusive, they're fast, all that stuff. The flip side is they haven't had anybody like Oklahoma running down the field chasing after them. So I'm not saying they can't. I'm not saying Tennessee's got a better or a worse special teams unit. I'm saying neither one of these teams have seen the kind of athlete that they're going to see on Saturday. Oklahoma hasn't seen the kind of athlete they're going to see against Tennessee, and Tennessee hasn't seen the kind of athlete that they're going to see against Oklahoma. So that's one that I'm really, really eager to see watch play out is who's got the advantage there? Which team is going to make that long play or that big hit or whatever it is that dislodges a football? That's going to be you talk about field position, changing field position. That's going to be a big one, I think, is on those returns.
Well, fortunately for Oklahoma, they have been very good on punt coverage this year. Not only Elzinga, being able to place the ball where he wants it, but the gunners that they have running down there on punt coverage have been really, really good about getting down there, not only downing the ball, but when the other team fields it, getting right on that returner and knocking him down. I think that, you mentioned we always talk, Brent Venables always talks about the competitive depth. When you recruit a bunch of good defensive players, you've got a bunch of guys that the only way you can get them on the field is special teams. And so when you put them on special teams, not only do they have the athleticism, like you mentioned, Hooved, they've got they want to hit someone, they want to go out there and prove themselves. And that's their opportunity to make plays. And especially when you are a team that emphasizes this is important, those guys will go out there, they'll make plays. We've seen Jacoby Johnson, we've seen Jaden Hardy, we've seen Robert Spears-Jennings, all those guys be really good special teams players. Oklahoma's going to need that again this week.
Special teams MVP was Carter as well, who's fell on a fumble, stripped a fumble. And Peyton Bowen's a really gifted punt returner as well. Hoover and I talked about this in the press box. Who was probably annoyed with me being like, that was incredible. But that 78-yard punt that was going to down Oklahoma on the 15 kind of became an afterthought for Tulane because Bowen was able to spin around, make something out of nothing, and suddenly Oklahoma has the ball at the plus 40. And what would you have expected? They get a stop deep in the other team's shadow their own goalpost, and they only have to go 60 yards for pay dirt or anything like that. That's going to be big. Zach Schmidt kicking out the back of the end zone. He's been pretty good about that. Hey, what's the easiest way to make sure that you don't blow a coverage? Just boot it. That'll be big. But another big thing, inevitably, if this is a game that Oklahoma wins, I don't see Oklahoma blowing Tennessee out unless Nico throws a ton of pick sixes or something like that. But Tyler Keltner, you're going to need to have reliability in the field goal game. This last week was a bounce back, sort of, nailing the 29-yarder, the 39-yarder. He hit the 50-yarder as well, but you can't not be able to snap the ball. But the good news is Tyler Keltner should be 2 for 2 on 50-yard booming kicks. Who?
Yeah, his kick, it was right down the middle, too. It was a 50-yarder. And so he's standing over the ball with a ton of confidence. And, at some point you wonder what happened on that. And we asked Brent, he said, I don't know. They blew it. That was his response. I don't know. They blew it. I guess it's Keltner's call to tell the holder, Josh Plaster, I'm good. I'm ready. Let's kick it. Let's go. And then Plaster gives him the hands. The center's looking between his legs and sees the hands, and he snaps it, right? That's the mechanism that goes into place. They got out there with between 7. The clock was at 7 when he stood over the ball. And it went to 6, and then nobody moved. And it went to 5. It went to 4. Nobody moved. 3, 2, 1, 0. Then he snaps it. It's like, I've never seen that before in a football game. At any level. I've never seen a field goal team get out there and then just stand there like that. So makes you wonder if Keltner wanted to kick a 55-yarder, took it on purpose to kick a 55-yarder. I don't know. But Brent said, no, we're punting it.
Yeah, do we think his controller maybe disconnected and he was trying to plug it back in? He's like, oh, no.
Take out the cartridge and blow on it. You just still do that?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe throw in a little body slam NFL blitz style afterwards, too, just to see if you can get away with it. Why not? Why not? Roll it out there.
Yeah, I think
Randall, you were on the field for all of Keltner. The 3 kicks ended up being just 2 kicks, all that stuff. I know everyone was stoked week 1, SEC Special Teams Player of the Week. Comes out there, misses a field goal against Houston. Did you sense any kind of drop in confidence, things like that? Or did he look like the Tyler Keltner from week 1 out there against Tulane?
Against Tulane, he didn't seem any less confident than he had, the rest of the season. I will say that the kick he missed against Houston was plenty far. It was not close at all to the goalpost. It almost missed like the entire net, almost kicked that one into the stands. So that was, maybe just a fluke, maybe just pulled it the wrong way or something. I don't know exactly how kicking works. You have to get our man Bryce McKinnis to shine a little insight on that. But I think that against Tulane, the 50-yarder that he hit looked to be good. It looked like it would have been good from 55. So I was kind of surprised that Brent Venables didn't elect to run him out there and kick that one again. Because like y'all mentioned, the 50-yarder that he hit that ended up not counting, Kelton nailed that. And so I think that even though it doesn't go in, maybe that's a bit of a confidence boost, but he didn't seem any less confident, any more concerned than he had a few weeks prior. Maybe that's being a veteran kicker, having been a starter at a previous stop before Oklahoma. Maybe that is some of that experience shining through. I think that obviously, though, we've mentioned it, we'll really see how his mental strength, mental fortitude is this week, because if Oklahoma needs him to make a big kick against Tennessee, pressure is going to be on. That's where we will really see how strong is your mental.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a big spot. We talked about it. I don't think anyone really cared what was going to happen through the non-conference, because got to make big kicks in big games. That's what's been lacking for this team the last couple of years. It's certainly a big game, and everything will be a big kick come Saturday night, 6:30 ABC game day, all that stuff in town. Anytime we've got any game week, we have a ton of content on Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com, but it's Tennessee week, so we've got it overflowing all over the place. Make sure that you are headed over there, Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. And hey, SEC play is here, which means we are still free all the time, always. You don't have to do anything but fire up the website. Google it up, as a great coach once said. Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. We've also got all of the videos from all week long, the Brent Venables press conference, certainly everything from the Monday night player availability. You can hit us up there on the website or go to Hoover's YouTube page, John Hoover Media. And if you're watching the YouTube page right now, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment what you think. Give us a score prediction in the comments too. We always love seeing those. That's a huge help for us. And if you're listening just on the regular podcast, be sure you give us a rating and review. Those are super helpful for everyone to find the show. The more people that find the show, the more cool stuff we get to do, the more OU content we get to bring your way. Gentlemen, before we get to recruiting into our availability report, which at this moment still has not dropped, but we'll be sliding that bad boy in there. Let's do a little reading the vibes. We've talked to a lot of guys this week about this game. Anything we haven't covered yet that kind of stood out to you from either Brent Venables or the players or anything like that?
Frankly, I loved my question to Brent Venables about needing either one of two things on offense. You either need big plays or you need sustained drives. And right now, through 3 games, Oklahoma has gotten zilch from either category. They've gotten no big plays, two 47-yarders, a pass and a run. And they've gotten 3 scoring drives that were sustained, 8 plays or more scoring drives. I'll give you some stats that I dug up. You guys are going to love these stats. Brent said, he said at some point, we've got to hit the big play. We've got to make a guy miss. We've got to get the ball down the field. And I think he's eager to see what kind of game Seth Luttrell's going to call in that regard. But as a team, get this, yards per completion on the season in 2024. The bottom of the barrel is Rice, okay? 7.92 yards per pass completion. Ball State is next, 8.07. Florida Atlantic and Florida International are right there. So there's 4 teams. Oklahoma is the 5th worst team at yards per completion in the country, 8.75 yards per completion. Woof. That's and it all goes back to me for one thing. You came into this season missing your 4 leading returning receivers, basically. You lost Gibson, you lost Farouk. Anderson hasn't been available. This has been a disaster, passing the football. So they should be able to run the football, right? Should be able to lean on the run game, right? OU's averaging 4.3 yards per rush, okay? That's brutal. Your leading rusher is Jackson Arnold, who had one 97-yard game. So they haven't been able to hit the big play, and you'll love these numbers too. Whew, this is bad. 4.86 yards per offensive snap, 4.86 yards per play. If that holds up, that would be the worst since 1998. Can we say it again? All in unison, 1998. That's where this offense is right now after 3 games. There's only 17 teams that rank worse than 4.86 yards per play. That's passing and running. I'm not going to go through who those 17 are, but you can bet they're not very good at the game of football. If that holds up, it would be the worst since 1998. Over the last 25 years, they've had twice, 2005, which wasn't a very good team, and then 2001, which wasn't a very good offensive team. They both averaged 4.9 yards per play. This team's averaging 4.86. So think about that. The 2014 team, you just go back, 2009 team, they were all better. Since 2011, Oklahoma has been under 6.3 yards per play only one time, and 5.8 in that 2013 year. Lincoln Riley got here, and it was either 6.8, 7, 7.4, 8.6. Guys, this team's half of that right now. So long way to go for this offense. And if they get some people back healthy, maybe they can get there.
The Brent Venables 98 Boogeyman is back. Oh, no. I thought we buried it 2 years ago with every stat goes back. So it kind of plays into something that Brent Venables talked about on the teleconference, which I thought stood out to me as well. He was asked by the great Jesse Crittenden, that running back rotation, they've used a lot of Barnes. You've seen more and more Taylor Tatum, not really a ton of Sawchuk. Do they want to keep rotating all 3 of those guys? And Brent said that, they've all got strengths, all that stuff. But he also circled back to something that was kind of a theme of this team a year ago, where he's like, we obviously like for someone to really cement themselves and take that over. And part of that's been something that Brent talked about on his coach's show Monday night. At a certain point, when it is blocked up and when it's there, Oklahoma's running backs have to start making guys miss. Javonte Barnes runs into the arms of every tackler. Now it's a punishing blow, but I think Javonte Barnes tried to make someone miss for the first time maybe ever against Tulane. So that was like progress. Did he make a miss? No, but like that's got to happen. Taylor Tatum's the guy that makes it look like that guys are missing, but when you look at his numbers outside of against Temple, which is not a real football team, he's not really busted off anything, and Gavin Sawchuk hasn't come online at all yet. And so that was the thing that kind of stood out to me, and I know it was buried on the teleconference on Wednesday between a Josh Heupel elbow injury update from 2000, but it was, hey, they're still waiting for that guy to take over. A lot of that's been the offensive line, but it's not like, hey, the offensive line's getting pushed back and Javonte Barnes is making a guy miss in the backfield and he's making a 3-yard gain. Like, no one's making anybody miss right now. And that's got to happen both with the running backs. And I think that extends as well. You talk about explosive plays, Deion Burks, Nick Anderson, Jaquez Petaway, whoever happens to get the ball, they're going to have to dance and make some Tennessee DBs miss, I think, to loosen that thing up. So something that just simply has to happen on Saturday. Just because it hasn't happened yet, it's college football. Doesn't mean it won't happen, especially as you open it up, the juices get flowing, but that's got to be big time. Randall, I know something that stood out to you, though, came from the other side of the ball this week.
Yeah, Brent Venables was talking about Kobe McKenzie, talking about how much he's matured and developed during his time at OU, talking about how much he's going to factor in, not only how much he has factored in so far this season, but how much he's going to continue to factor in throughout the year. Obviously, Kobe McKenzie got his first career start on Saturday against Tulane. Brent Venables seemed pretty happy with his performance. He talked about, how his teammates, his coaches have really helped Kobe McKenzie mature, saying that, how his maturity along with those guys has helped him become a better player, I should say. Talking about Kobe and his teammates, being happy to go watch film, go to the weight room, whatever the extra work they needed to put in over the off season through the summer was. And I think that, you've really seen that if you've watched Kobe's development since he got to OU. Came here as a guy, known as a big hitter, a guy who's really good between the tackles, playing linebacker, someone who can come downhill and really deliver a striking blow. But now he's a lot more of the modern linebacker, the guy that you envision starting at an SEC program, someone who can make the reads necessary to cover the pass, play the run. I think that that's what you're seeing that develop, and that's why Brent Venables, Zach Alley are trusting Kobe McKenzie, putting him in the starting lineup. I think it was maybe last week Brent Venables talked about Kobe having Velcro on his chest plate last year, saying he didn't know how to get off of blocks, and now this year that's something that he's completely changed. He's improved a lot, and I think that looking at the various ways he's improved since he got to OU, you see what Brent Venables and company love about a guy like Kobe McKenzie, and if he's improved so much, I think that it's a safe assumption to assume that he's going to continue to improve, continue to be a big part of this defense. Oklahoma is going to need him this week, especially to stop that running game, to stop Nico, that Tennessee passing attack. His skill set, I think, is going to be really important, especially like you mentioned against some of those big time, big physical offensive linemen that Tennessee has. You're going to need a strong, physical, tough linebacker like Kobe McKenzie to knife through and make some of those plays.
All right, guys, last little bit of football before we dip out and go to some other stuff. Yeah, not OU Tennessee related, that is, I guess. We still got recruiting, all that stuff. But we got the availability report. Not a lot of shocks. There is one big one that I literally said, wow, as Hoover and Randall know. But let's just rattle through it real quick. Wide receiver Jaden Gibson out. Duh, we knew that. Jalil Farouk out. Defensive back Gentry Williams, he is out. So no Gentry Williams. We haven't seen Gentry since that lone snap against Houston. Offensive lineman Garen Hatchett out. So three of those guys we knew were out for the year. Gentry Williams, that's the news there. Linebacker Dasan McCullough was listed as doubtful on Oklahoma's injury report. The questionable group, tight end Cade McIntyre is questionable. Center Branson Hickman is questionable. Offensive tackle Jake Taylor, all three of those guys questionable. The Sooners could really use Hickman back. Frankly, boys, I don't know, as we kind of talked about earlier, Jake Taylor, if he is super banged up, if that's the kind of physical state you want to throw someone in out there against a really talented defensive line. The probable crew, wide receiver Nick Anderson, he gonna play, guys. That's what Jack Snarl told us. Wide receiver Angelo Anthony, he may be available. I just don't know if we're going to see Andrell anytime soon. Defensive back Kendall Dolby, he is probable. Kendall Dolby's going to play this weekend. The one that I said, oh wow, offensive lineman Troy Everett is listed as probable on this injury report, gentlemen. We'll go through Tennessee here in a second, but what was just your first thoughts? What stood out to you about this injury report? Availability report. Sorry, don't sue me, Greg.
Availability report. Kendall Dolby, huge for the defense. And if Nick Anderson is back and healthy enough to be Nick Anderson, right? Huge for the offense. But the key piece here, or a major key piece, especially if Branson Hickman returns, could be Troy Everett. He's missed the entire season. He's missed the entire summer. He's been out since middle of spring with the knee injury. He's not like an instant fix for the offense. He's not a guy that's going to come in and solve all the problems, but he's going to upgrade things, you would think, or at least be a second option to upgrade things if somebody else gets hurt.
Yeah, I guess, Randall, the $1 million question that Bill Beanbo's going to have to work out, if Branson Hickman can't go, let's say he tests it in pregame, you've got Troy Everett who can. Are you going to throw a guy in who is not seen a live snap, or are you going to ride the Joshua Bates experience, who's played a majority of the last two games? I mean, what say you?
Yeah, I think that that's really an interesting discussion because obviously the Tennessee defensive line is great. And, do you really want to throw a former Appalachian State transfer to the Wolves against Tennessee after he's been hurt for not only if it were just the beginning of the season, that's one thing. But like who mentioned, he's been hurt all summer, all spring. I mean, this guy hasn't really gotten to work with the Seth Luttrell offense much. He hasn't really gotten to do the offseason conditioning and workouts that a lot of these other guys got to go through. Now, despite all that, is he going to be a better option than Josh Bates? Maybe. And that's what Bill Bedenbaugh will have to determine. I think that what really will stick out is we've kind of heard that maybe Josh Bates is also dealing with some injury issues. He's just kind of still giving it a go because he's really kind of all that Oklahoma has left at that center position right now. So if that's the case, then I think that Troy Everett, regardless, will certainly be an upgrade over an injured, less experienced player. But I think that another interesting conversation is what happens if both of those guys are healthy. Obviously, I think Branson Hickman gets the start at center, but do you consider giving Troy Everett some time maybe at guard if, some of those other guys struggle? Do you move Sexton back out to tackle? I think that that's an interesting conversation, but I think that given what seems likely right now, I would say that if you're Bill Bedenbaugh, you do throw Troy Everett out there, just given nothing against Josh Bates, but given what he's put on tape so far, and given the fact that he's probably also dealing with an injury, I think that you probably make the call to go with a more experienced player, unless you really just know that, which obviously we won't know, that guy's just not ready.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. My assessment last year, and I know I told Hoover this, I think if Troy Everett's your center coming into this year, you're fine. I didn't want to see him at guard. He was a liability against Texas, a very similar defensive line, built a little bit differently, but that was a good defensive line. There's a reason that Caden Green finished that game at guard. It's because Troy Everett was getting absolutely mauled, and that was a healthy Troy Everett. I just wonder if Jack Arnold's a senior quarterback, maybe you throw Troy Everett in. I would be very hesitant if Branson Hickman is not available to suddenly fire in Troy Everett when you've already had communication issues along that offensive line, all that. But that'll be interesting to see. If nothing else, that's great news for Oklahoma on this front. You mentioned it. Bionic arm, Josh Bates with the dueling massive elbow braces, all that stuff. At least you have some cover, and it's not Josh Iasosa getting tossed, really thrown into the Wolves. Knock on wood. This is an insane thing, but if Troy Everett's not available, and he's not probable on this report, and Branson Hickman's not available, if Oklahoma, if Josh Bates' helmet pops off on 2nd and 8, you could literally have Josh Iasosa in the game on a key 3rd down, and there's nothing Oklahoma can do. So I think that's huge. That's huge on that front. Another one to flag, just real quick too, of the questionable group, Cade McIntyre is their best blocking tight end. That would help in the run game if Oklahoma can get that. Let's flip over to Tennessee's availability report. I'm not going to rattle through all of it, but the big one, Lance Hurd, we mentioned it. That's the offensive tackle Tennessee and Oklahoma were both in for in the portal. Hurd, the veteran, is in Knoxville. He's doing a great job for Tennessee. He's listed as questionable on this availability report. This bad boy's going to get updated Thursday night, Friday night. That final one will be out there 90 minutes before kickoff. As always, Oklahoma Sooners on SI is your place to be. But before we move on to other things, who have any other just thoughts on this, or have we covered it the best we can cover?
I think we covered it. Dasan McCulloch, the fact that he missed almost all of training camp and didn't even come close to playing the first 3 games, the fact that he's probably or doubtful right now, I think that's a small sliver of hope that you might be getting some playmakers back on defense eventually.
The only thing that I think that I wanted to mention was Kendall Dolby is going to be a really, really important addition back for the Sooners defense. I won't go too much in depth on that, but I think that he's going to really, really help Oklahoma's defense, a group that was already pretty solid.
Yeah. Sam McCullough, I was talking about this on radio. I don't know what his role will be when he's healthy, but he's an excellent penetrator for third and shorts, goal line stuff, all that. Just ask Texas how good he was slicing in and dicing there. So that's our new routine. We know this now, right? SEC game weeks, Wednesday night, everyone's going to be refreshing the website like crazy, and then maybe not so much Thursday and Friday, and we'll get that bad boy on Saturday. We'll have stories, like I said, all week long. Just keep coming to the site, Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com for all your availability report needs. All right, I know we're laser focused on Oklahoma and Tennessee, but let's take the step back. We did have some news in the Cruton world this week. We had a decommitment that we got to cover here at Oklahoma Sooners on SI. And then Oklahoma had a player that we have talked about a bunch appear to reaffirm their commitment publicly. Randall, let's start with the loss. Oklahoma loses Boucard, defensive lineman, out of that class. What went down? What have you gathered from that decommitment of Floyd Boucard?
So Floyd Boucard, a 4-star defensive lineman from Miami Central, obviously they're in Miami, Florida. What I was told, visited Miami last weekend. Miami, huge win over Ball State, but from what I understand now, I don't think that it's Miami that's likely to be the rebound for Floyd Boucard. I think that a team that everyone in Norman is very familiar with, the USC Trojans, is probably the front runner right now to land his services. And I think if you've kept track on the recruiting trail, USC's been really hot, even on the defensive side of the ball. They've had a really good start to the year, not only on the field, but on the recruiting trail as well. They've picked up some big commitments in the mix for some other big prospects. I think that this is just going to be a continuance of that. And now, obviously, if you're Oklahoma, losing a 4-star defensive lineman, it hurts. It's a guy that they wanted in this class, seemed to have a good relationship with Bates, with Jaden Jackson, David Stone, 2 guys who played at IMG Academy, which is close to Miami Central. But I think that, looking at the class that Oklahoma's got with CJ Nixon on the edge, with Kamori Moore on the interior, I think that given the way that Oklahoma recruited on the interior last year, obviously you never like to lose a 4-star defensive lineman, but it's not the most dire situation on the team. It's not like one of those offensive linemen that Oklahoma needs and is coveting backed off of their pledge. So Oklahoma can still rebound. I think it'll be interesting to see whether they use that scholarship to kind of look elsewhere, or whether they just, kind of continue on the path that they were on, and where they're at in the 2025 class, continue to focus their efforts on 2026. But I think that in the end, it's just one of those situations. It's hard to keep nearly 30 high school kids in the same class together. You're bound to lose 1 or 2, especially in the modern era of NIL and of all sorts of different things. Not saying that NIL was the factor in this decision, but it's just, there's a lot of things that go into maintaining relationships with high school recruits. You're bound to lose one here and there throughout a class. I think that, Oklahoma's not the only school that this is happening at. Alabama, Georgia, even these schools that are winning all their games, they're seeing these flips and these decommitments as well. So I don't think it's anything too alarming. It's just what happens in high school recruiting sometimes. Obviously, someone that Oklahoma is going to miss, but not necessarily the most the biggest name target in this 2025 class. Not the worst case scenario for the Sooners. And I think that given the trade-off of what you mentioned with Cortez Mills announcing that he's going to stay in the class, I think Oklahoma will take that. Another guy from the Miami area, Homestead, Florida specifically. He visited Nebraska, I think, what was that, 2 weeks ago now? A week and a half. Whenever Nebraska played Colorado, Cortez Mills was there. Nebraska beat up on Colorado a ton. That game seemed to really move the needle for a few recruits. I know Christian Jones was a guy that Oklahoma really, really wanted, a linebacker in that 2025 class. He was also there at that game, committed to Nebraska shortly after. So I think that given what I'd heard from some people on the Nebraska side, there was some wondering if maybe this was going to be a battle between Oklahoma and Nebraska, but it seems like that's not the case. Cortez Mills, he tweeted a photo of himself and basically the entire OU coaching staff with the lock emoji. I think that that's pretty obvious that that's signaling he's locked in, he's staying with Oklahoma. I think that we talked about it last week. Emmett Jones and company, they don't want to burn those bridges. They don't want to kill those relationships that they have in Florida, in that Miami area. Cortez Mills is a really, really talented receiver, one of the best in the country. That's not a guy that they want to lose if they can do something about it. I think in the end, you saw cooler heads prevail. Oklahoma didn't pull their offer. Oklahoma said, hey, we're going to be cool here. We're going to wait. We're going to see what happens. And in the end, it paid off for Oklahoma. You let Cortez Mills take that visit. He saw what he wanted to see, and he's reaffirmed to Oklahoma now. I think that Oklahoma played that one really well. I think that we had a lot of discussion. There's a lot of discussion online about the whole visit commit policy, and I think that we've seen that maybe this is I don't want to say a new era for Oklahoma, but I think it's something that they're handling on a case by case basis. It's not necessarily like the Ashton Kozar situation where as soon as that guy gets on the plane to go to Oregon or Nebraska or you name it, the offer's gone and Oklahoma's out. I think that we're going to see this being a much more situation-based tactic.
We saw that with Colton Vasek a couple years ago too. Obviously, a different situation when you're a Texas Legacy and your family's season ticket holders. What do you classify as a visit versus, hey, my mom and my dad are going to be in Austin. Am I just going to sit at home on the couch? What's going on? So we've seen what that looks like. You flip that around though, Randall. Oklahoma is hosting Tennessee. It's game day. It's a night game. These are the games that you circle on the calendar and say anyone that wants to come aboard. Any of the it feels like there's too many names just to rattle down the list and go boom, 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 boom. These are all the recruits that are going to be in Norman this weekend. But who are some of the biggest fish that you got your eyes on that are intending on making their way down to watch the Sooners and the Volunteers battle it out?
Yeah, so I think the big name that everyone's going to want to keep their eye on is Trey Taylor. He's a quarterback from Indiana, I believe, Illinois, Indiana, somewhere in Big Ten country. My Midwest geography is not great. Somewhere on the border of those two states, but an elite quarterback prospect in the 2027 class. So a few years away, but Oklahoma already has one commitment in that class. We know that they would like to add more. There's a few quarterbacks in 2027 that they've handed out offers to, but Trey Taylor was, I believe, the first quarterback in 2027 that got an offer. He's been in Norman multiple times before. I got to meet him and see him throw personally at the Brent Venables camp over the summer. Very impressive. A kid that, he walks up next to you and you're like, man, your face looks really young. There's no reason that you should be 6'3", 6'4", standing next to me right now. It's a bit of a shock, but it looks every bit of a Division I quarterback. He's a little thin right now. Obviously, those guys they tend to grow as they get older, but got the height, he's got the arm strength. I've seen it in person. Really, really good quarterback prospect. Someone that Oklahoma's been really high on. I think Trey Taylor, Peyton Houston out of Louisiana. Those are going to kind of be the two guys that Oklahoma has their eyes on, primarily in that 2027 class at quarterback. They're both really, really high recruits. So Trey Taylor is going to be in Norman this week. I think that's a name to keep an eye on. Two guys I won't go as in depth about, but both Dallas area offensive linemen. Peyton Miller, Brian Swanson, both going to be two of the top offensive linemen in the entire country. Peyton Miller is from Anna, Texas. They won the state championship last year. Brian Swanson from South Oak Cliff. They were state runner-ups last year. So two elite programs in the DFW area, two elite offensive linemen that Oklahoma has had on campus before. Two guys that Bill Bedenbaugh would really like to land. These are going to be really, really highly rated prospects. Peyton Miller is an interior offensive lineman. Brian Swanson's a tackle. So those are two names to keep your eye on. We'll have a full visitor list on our website on Sunday, so be sure to check back for that. But those are three names to keep an eye on.
The Sunday offering, a great resource for any OU fan that's up Sunday, usually at 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. Just kind of depends on the kickoff the night before. I'm not going to bore you with the logistics of scheduling a website, but by the time you're out of church and you're going to lunch on Sunday, if you want to cycle back, look through. As always, all our post-game stuff, OklahomaSoonersOnSI.com, as well as that Sunday offering. Real quick, some other news and notes from around OU before we dip in and out. I don't want to hunker down and spend 15 minutes on this because it feels like there are still a bunch of plates moving, but deep into the night, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, Oklahoma City Council by a 5-4 vote did pass the TIF that would bring Oklahoma that new entertainment district in Norman that would be the arena for basketball, gym, all that stuff. The immediate caveat coming out of that is that it sounds like there are a large group of citizens that want to try and find a way to referendum this bad boy. I'm just going to tell you, someone that's lived in Norman basically all my life, Norman does not vote for stuff like they do not pass stuff like that. So the thing to watch is if it goes to a vote, it will fail. Like it would take a drastic change of the last times this thing's been voted on. But we'll see. So I'm kind of I know it's been passed, and I know the whole reason they passed as a TIF was so it could be a council vote instead of a referendum. There's a reason, because Oklahoma or Norman does not typically pass those referendums. So obviously that's good news if it moves forward, but I truthfully hesitate to even be like, this is a done deal, this is happening. We'll kind of follow that. Elsewhere, last Friday, there was a little ceremony outside of Love's Field as Patty Gasso's statue has been enshrined outside of Gate 1 at Love's Field. If you missed any of that, just go to OklahomaSoonersOnSI.com. Hit the softball tab. You won't have to sift through all the football stuff. It's up there. I had a story. We got to talk to Patty Gasso afterwards. She talked about it's a classic pose. It's her holding her hand out, giving the high five as a home run hitter rounds third. And I thought this was just like the most Patty Gasso thing ever, that she talked about intentionally wanting that pose so that any fan, player, whatever, they can all walk into the stadium and like it's a Patty Gasso statue, and her thought was immediately, how do I bring the fans into this? How do I bring everyone that's been a part of this program into this? Oh, she urges everyone, like the intention is to go and slap Patty's hand on the way into Love's Field, all that stuff. I thought that was really cool. If you want to watch any of the ceremony, the little 7-ish minutes she spoke with us kind of in a small group after that, that's all up either John Hoover Media on YouTube or Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. Do you guys have any takeaways? I know it's kind of a little bit of a Friday news dump almost.
Yep. Yeah, it was cool. And congratulations to Patty. But it made me think of there's somewhere in the Frank Broyles Athletic Complex in Fayetteville, Arkansas, there's a big shiny bronze pig. And everybody walks by the big pig and rubs his nose. And it's like bronze, but then the tip of the nose is like really, really shiny because everybody's rubbing it constantly. So when they walk by, thousands of people. So at some point that's going to happen. Patty's going to start to get the statue's going to get a little weathered and it's going to get hit by the elements, but the hand is going to be like shining like gold at some point because everybody that goes to that stadium is going to high five that thing. That's such a cool gesture by her to include the fans and bring them in and make them a part of her ultimate legacy.
And when that eventually happens, go ahead, Randall. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, how many other campuses have as many statues of sports figures as Oklahoma? I mean, Patty Gasso, you've got the 7 Heisman Trophy winners, the 3 Selman brothers, 4 coaches? I mean, if you are someone who likes to go see the sites, that's a pretty cool thing. You get to go, there's 11 different statues on campus, right? That's 11? Whatever the number is, there can't be many schools with more than that on campus.
I wonder if the Centennial Commission, when they the Heisman Park thing initially came from the Centennial stuff, right? What's the initial Heisman Park stuff with the 2007, 1907? I wonder if they realized whether they meant it or not, they were started Joe Castiglione was like, I like these statues. I want more statues. I need to pop them everywhere. Pretty cool. And when the oils on your hands turn Patty Gasso's hand gold, it'll be really fitting because everything she's touched around here has turned to gold. So a little bit of a Midas touch for the GOAT, Patty Gasso. Not the only softball news. We also on Wednesday got news of the fall slate. October 2nd and October 9th, Oklahoma softball will be doing the battle series, the inter-squad stuff, so you'll get a good look at the new freshmen, the transfers. On October 16th, they're going to Texas A&M Commerce. I will not be making that trip. On October 23rd, they're going to take on Seminole State College. Got a double header, it appears, on October 26th against ULM. On November 1st, it'll be a battle of the Gassos. Patty in one dugout, Jim in the other as Mac U comes down. Then they'll close it all out on November 6th with some battle series action. As always, you're going to be stuck with my scoring decisions during fall ball. I decide what's a hit and what's not. There's no official scorebook. That'll be me. We'll also talk to a bunch of the freshmen, a bunch of the transfers, if it's anything like last year. So stay tuned for that. That'll be some good midweek juice for us as that gets going. I'm expecting the baseball fall ball schedule soon. I don't know if that's hit yet, but frankly, I've just been bouncing around looking at other stuff during this podcast. And this is where we get to the final stages. Usually I give what is labeled on the rundown as award-winning outro. It's really just an outro, but this is unfortunately something that Hoover and I have done like 5 billion times by now. If you're not on Twitter, if you live under a rock, this is the last time you're going to hear Randall on the midweek pod. He's going to be with us for the post-game pod, but Randall, it's always great to go home, and you getting the big opportunity to head on home is you basically, what you told us is, I hate Ryan, I hate Hoove, I've got to get out of here, and I want to go work. No. But Randall's got a big gig. Congrats, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited. Back, like you mentioned, back home in West Texas, back near my parents, my younger brothers. So exciting. I think that they're all excited to see a little more of me around the house. I'm gonna miss my time. I've had a great time getting to learn under y'all and getting to cover the Sooners. We've made some really funny memories, some great coverage along the way. So couldn't have asked for a better start into the sports industry.
We had a good time. We learned a lot from each other, and we're proud of you for sure, Randall, and happy for you that you get to go back to West Texas. It's interesting that I spent the first 30 years of my career in a newspapers, and then the last 10 or so, 8 or so, not in newspapers. Here, you're doing just the opposite. You started out online, Mr.com,
Reverse.
and now you're going to go spend the next 30 years in a newspaper. So congratulations.
You said time is a flat circle, right?
Say that again?
You said time is a flat circle.
That's right.
Just reiterating that.
Yep.
What's old?
You did good, man. We're happy for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Randall, you gotta chuck subs though. Where can the readers continue to find all your great work as you make this transition over the next couple of weeks?
That's right. I'm not used to this. Okay, so at Randall Sweet 5, as Ryan will, I'm sure, mention in our award-winning outro, is my Twitter handle. So all my work for Oklahoma Sooners on SI can be found there, and my new job, the Amarillo Globe in Amarillo, Texas. All my work can be found there, and again on my Twitter handle as well. So check out the Amarillo Globe if you're interested in some West Texas sports or other news.
I certainly will be as well. We're super stoked for you, my friend, and can't wait to see you take that next step as well. But for us, our next step is going to be getting back into the lab, cooking up a ton of content as we're on the backside of the week. We've made the turn. As you're listening to this, it's Thursday, which means in one day on Friday, you'll have Hoove's One Big Thing, 3 keys to the game. We've got staff picks. I'm sure that Hoove's eyebrows raised when he opened up my game day copy as well with the staff pick I've got locked fired in there. On Saturday, before the game, obviously, we'll have our Under the Radar, our X Factor. And don't forget, be sure you're checking the site. 7 p.m., Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, the rest of the year, except for the main week and then the bye weeks. But the rest of the year, SEC games, that's the deadline for the availability report update. So by 7 p.m., obviously, we'll have the availability report updated, OklahomaSoonersOnSide.com. I'm just going to publish a new story every day, so there'll be no confusion. Wednesday report, Thursday report, Friday report. You'll have all that. Then 90 minutes before the game, as you guys are out there tailgating, making a ruckus, making an awesome atmosphere, 90 minutes before kickoff, don't forget the final availability report. No longer are you going to have to wait for us to X everything off up in the press box. Just go OklahomaSoonersOnSI.com. We'll have all of that there for you. On the podcast, the next time we will talk to you will be after the game, deep into Sunday morning, probably 3, 4 in the morning, as we recap everything from Oklahoma and Tennessee. But until then, be sure you're following us everywhere that you can, whether it's X, Twitter, whatevs, Sooners on SI is the handle. For Hoove, it's at Johnny Hoover. I'm _ Ryan Chapman. You're already following Randall because he stole my thunder. McKinnis Bryce is Bryce. Dakota Gregory, they all do fantastic work. They'll continue to do fantastic work. The website's Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. The YouTube page, John Hoover Media. But for Randall, for Hoove, we'll talk to you early Sunday morning, recapping everything between the Sooners and the Vols. It's here, and it's going to be beautiful. So much Boomer Sooner, so much Rocky Top. I can't wait. We'll talk to you guys then.